Good morning. Once again, my name is Dennis Falloon, and I'm the District 7 Safety Academy Coordinator. And I'd like to welcome you to the fifth webinar of the Local Agency Traffic Safety Academy. And this session will cover the requirements for HSIP requirements and will be presented by Anthony Chamont of PE. He's a District 7 consultant with Tyndale, Oliver and Associates. If you can go ahead and flick that. Uh, Thank you. The Academy is here to provide information regarding safety-related issues to enhance local safety programs. Um, as you can see here, I've mentioned before in previous introductions that this all began on October 23rd. This set of topics, 12 of them, will end on January 29th, 2014. Will be the last of the 12. The topics run between an hour, but no more than 2 hours. That includes Q&A. And also the length of a webinar will depend on the topic being presented. You've seen this probably in the past, but you can register for these courses going to SurveyMonkey, this link right here, or you can go directly to the District 7 Safety Summit.org webpage, and you should be able to register through that. Also, I've listed this time the link that is also on your invite for today's meeting to go to previous recorded sessions and PDF copies. Okay. Today, as I mentioned, we're doing the requirements for HSIP applications, and I would like you to also note that there is no webinar next Wednesday because of the holiday, and there's 3 remaining for the year, which is the 4th, the 11th, and the 18th of December. Okay, and this is my contact information if you need anything. That's it, and I'd like to introduce Anthony Chamont, and he's going to discuss the requirements for HSIP requirements, and during the Q&A period, myself and possibly Larry Taylor, who we will go to if we need to, if we go some more questions related to the requirements, and we'll have those covered in the Q&A. All right, Anthony.
Thank you, Dennis. My name's Anthony Chamont. Like Dennis said, I work with Tyndall, Oliver and Associates. I'm one of the leader safety consultants over District 7. Today I'm pulling double duty as both the moderator and the presenter, so bear with me if you have questions in the chat. Just go ahead and type them in there, and I'll do what I can to field your questions while I'm presenting. Today's presentation is on the requirements for the HSIP application. This is the applications that come following the Safety Summit. Thank you for those that answered the questions in the straw poll. It's good to know the breakdown of the folks in the audience. As Dennis mentioned, the workshop series is ongoing. Today's is session 5, the requirements for HSIP applications, where we are today. Today's presentation probably won't take, the entire hour that we've been using for the other presentations. A quick outline of what we will be covering is what is HSIP, what District 7 is doing about it, the HSIP application process itself, the traditional paper forms, the pilot online forms, and the next steps, what we're doing going forward in 2014 with the new summit and some of the changes and updates. During that process there of the next steps and during the Q&A, I would love to hear feedback from the few folks that are here watching this webinar today that did attend the summit in the past and have gone through the process. So what is this HSIP? It's an acronym, Highway Safety Improvement Program. It's part of MAP 21. It's just a set-aside safety funds that are directed towards projects whose goal is reducing fatalities and serious injuries. That is where our driving down fatalities through knowledge sharing slogan comes from the local safety academy. Everything ties together back to this federal aid program that is geared towards reducing fatalities and serious injuries. The Highway Safety Improvement Program is data-driven. It is a strategic approach. It focuses on performance, and most importantly to everyone here today, It is for all public roads. This includes all local roads, tribal roads, like all the roads that are, state and non-state. District 7 has taken a multi-tiered approach towards this federal guidelines. We have the Local Traffic Safety Academy that we're all a part of here today, the District 7 Safety Summits, and the Local Agency Safety Funding Guide for Off-System Roadways. We'll briefly hit each of these three topics here. There is a process that's proactive, that uses data, data-driven, focused process for this. I realize this is a little small in your presentations to see, but if you download the PDFs, this actually printed very clearly, but we have a nice flow chart of progress for this with feedback loops, and it is a data-driven process to identify the locations, to identify the countermeasures, calculating all the numbers, and getting everything in here. This is all outlined in the guide. So the Local Agency Traffic Safety Academy, Dennis did a great explanation of that. It's a free webinar series focused on not just saying that we're working on driving down fatalities and serious injuries, but we're actually sharing our knowledge to apply that knowledge towards that goal. Driving fatalities through knowledge sharing. That's where this comes from. The Safety Summit, we've done 4 of them we've done 3 of them in the past. The 4th annual is in March of 2014. If you're District 7, we highly encourage everyone to come. The response for this has been phenomenal. For this funding cycle, we had over 40 projects that were applied for consideration. So it's been fantastic. It's just a formal process. We have timelines and guidelines, and we help the local agencies find projects. The requirements are all outlined in the Local Agency Safety Funding Guide. This is something that Dennis, it's a group effort, but Dennis is mostly responsible for putting this thing together. He's done a fantastic job with it. It's all split up into chapters. We have introduction and purpose, analyzing data, identifying countermeasures, off-system applications, calculating BC ratios. A few of these things are upcoming Safety Academy webinar topics, so be on the lookout for some of those, like the funding criteria, the BC ratios. This guide can be downloaded right from the website, district7safety.org. So the objectives here is for candidates to meet the funding objective. Again, the reduction of fatal and severe crashes. This is not really intended to supplement the available capital improvement program projects. It's intended to identify new locations where there are crash problems. That goes back to that data-driven, proactive approach. Support and buy-in is very important. Public officials, elected officials, the public, and higher-level agency officials. So we usually have a coordinator for each of the agencies that is sort of the point man for putting the applications together. But they can't just go and start coming up with projects to do on the roadways. You do need higher-level agency approval, like from the Public Works Director and higher for these projects, official signatures and everything. Public involvement is kind of a key issue that we'll briefly talk about in a few minutes. Data requirements, putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. You have your crash history, cost estimate, benefit cost, concept plans. It's a fairly intensive program to put all the process, all the pieces of the puzzle together. That's why it takes several months to put these applications in there, and it does require a lot. Again, we have a flow chart in our process for this. I know that you can't see this, but you can get it in the PDF of the presentation that's available. So it just explains quickly the flow chart, the process, the inputs, all the things that you need. Some key issues that have been troubling in the past for some of the local projects. Right-of-way, public involvement, and constructability. These are, is right-of-way needed? Now, these are not things that necessarily derail a project if they're properly handled and properly taken care of early on. Right away doesn't derail a project. It may extend the timetable where it takes a year later because the county or the local agency needs to acquire the right of way first. Public involvement, buy-in from the stakeholders, all the federal guidelines and DOT guidelines apply for all the projects. Constructability, again, utility conflicts. The project needs to be cost effective. If we're doing a project to eliminate a particular type of crash, federal safety funds are not necessarily going to be applied to the landscaping work that's going along with the project. It's going to be applied only to those items that are intended to mitigate the specific crashes. So the point of that basically is that due diligence for each project needs to be done to minimize the project being derailed down the road after funds are committed. We don't want to find a project that's good and then because we didn't do our part to make sure that all the guidelines are met, the project later on after the funds are committed needs to be moved. That's not good for anybody. And remember that federal processes and state guidelines will be met for all these projects, even though they're on local roads, because federal funds are being applied. That's kind of the key. So how do we apply? You know, we have all these guidelines and all these things. What do we need? There's two ways of doing it. We have the traditional paper forms, which in the future will be mostly phased out. We're going to keep them around because there's always someone that likes doing it on paper, and we have the online applications. The paper forms we've used for the last 3 safety summits. You have your basic project indexing information, you know, where you are, what the project is, the name of the location, who's filling it out. We have a detailed project description. There's checkboxes here for is right-of-way needed, are utility needed, are there environmental impacts, you know, have plans prep begun, and there's attachments to all of this that goes along and supporting documentation required, again outlined in Dennis's guide. Crash history, highlighting again fatal and severe injury crashes. 3-year crash history is adequate depending on the type of crash. We do 3 or 5 year. So you have the types of crashes that are happening and the numbers that will be mitigated because again we're working on reducing number of fatal and severe injury crashes. Thorough explanation of the crash problem, proposed improvement, project crash, projected crash reductions. This is the, you know, when the projects are submitted, the folks that are reviewing the applications, this is the only way that they really know what the projects are about. So a detailed description here is pretty important. Form expands type all the information in that location. And again, the applications must be signed by Public Works Director or higher level agency official. In 2013, we tried something new. We went to an online application. Feedback has been mostly positive. I'd like to talk about this a little bit during the Q&A with the folks that are here. But this just parallels the traditional forms. It's basic project information is on here. People log in and get everything together. The problems that the online form solved for us were issues with forms, paper forms being scanned and emailed and having duplication of data and having versioning problems. When you have an online application form, it creates a platform where everything is all together in one place. So we had expandable subsections for all of the items that are required through the process for your crash history, your process, your right-of-way, all the information. And it is all uploaded and downloaded by the applicants and by the reviewers through one location. So there's one place where it's all. This was fantastic for us through this, and I hope that it worked very well for the locals that were applying as well. So where are we going next? We have the 2014 District 7 Safety Summit in March 5th of 2014, and the guidebook is in the process of being updated right now. It's a bit of a moving target, as you know, with working with all these big programs. The focus shifts from time to time, the funding sources and the criteria changes. So as those things change, we update the forms and update the guidebook, and at the safety summit, all those things will be explained and everyone will know all the new guidelines. The online application is being revamped. We're going to expand the online forms, working towards having more of a paperless application process. We're going to migrate from a web-based to a SharePoint-based online application process. I think that's going to be a little bit more robust, and it'll give us better capabilities of coordinating and communicating, having a feedback loop. The data requirements are shifting a little bit from a benefit cost based system to a net present value ranking system. And if you're not sure what net present values are, make sure that you come to the December 18th Safety Summit webinar. WT will be talking about net present values, but those are some of the things that we have moving forward with the application. I'd like to open it to questions, see if anybody has any questions about the process. We've got myself, Dennis, and I know that Larry Taylor's on the line as well, and Rudy.
Anthony, this is Dennis. I'd like to add a couple comments. The forms that Anthony was discussing, as far as the application form goes, that is actually put inside the is in the guidebook, and it will be whatever that form looks like will be the same input fields that you will have on the online version. They're not going to be different, just so you understand that part of it. And the guidebook will be updated, and there were a couple slides in here, like we showed a timeline. That timeline was strictly for 2013, and that's being redone also for 2014, because some of the dates on when things are due will change. And if you want to get a copy of the guidebook, you can download it. It's under the District 7 SafetySummit.org webpage, and you go to the resource tab, and it should be at the top of that particular page. Go ahead, Anthony. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to show where that is.
Okay.
The District 7 SafetySummit.org. We have our homepage here advertising the local agency safety academy. But if you go to resources,
it's right there at the top.
Right at the top. Actually, we have there's so much information here. We have prior presentations. The entire Safety Summit from 2013 is here, and the entire Safety Summit from 2012 is here as well.
And then the resources there. So.
What the guidebook looks like. As Dennis was saying, the application is actually right on here. For the paper application, each section in here is described in the
the paper version's posted out on the web page too.
Right.
So. Do you see this question here, Joe, from Felix? It says, Anthony, could you talk about applications that include maintenance type of work?
I see the question. I'm trying to formulate an answer.
Okay, that's fine.
We haven't had very many applications that are strictly a maintenance item. They've all been somewhat construction project related. We've had ones that are manpower efforts, engineering support, had materials requests.
I don't if you want to unmute some people. District 7 there.
Yeah, District 7 is there.
Can Dave or Peter hear me? Can they?
I'm here.
Okay. Do you see Felix's question there, Peter? You
I
have
cannot
any?
see. I cannot log in.
Okay. Felix's question was, could you talk about applications that include maintenance type of work? And Anthony was saying that we really haven't gotten very many of those through this
We do
process.
not have any maintenance contract
Right.
because Federal Highway will not reimburse for maintenance. So case closed, easy. Can you help me to translate the message back?
Sure. He'll hear that.
Oh, he will hear. Oh, okay. Thank you. I have a computer problem. I can hear, cannot see.
Okay.
So,
Anthony, what about this next one?
Yep, we're seeing a couple more questions in there. What are issues with constructability? Could you give examples? I would say the biggest example that we've come across, at least this year with this, is regarding audible vibratory pavement markings. The roadway needs to be in good condition in order to put the audible vibratory pavement markings. We evaluated a lot of locations out in the field that the roadway just needed to be resurfaced. So if the funding requirement or if the funding request is for the AVPMs and the roadway needs to be resurfaced, I mean those projects, are not going to be able to be accepted. With constructability as well, I mean you have right-of-way issues if whatever needs to be done in order to mitigate the problem just doesn't fit in the location that's trying to be done. That's an issue as well. Utility conflicts can be issues that deal with constructability. Drainage, just everything needs to be taken into account.
There's another question there from Michael Frederick. Are our safety ambassadors available to consult on possible projects? I would have to say they are available, so I'd have to find out. I'm not sure who your ambassador is, but there's John Temple and Keith
Crawford.
Right.
You can see my screen back over on the District 7
Yeah, here it is.
webpage. Keith Crawford is the safety ambassador for all projects in Hillsborough, Pinellas County, and John Temple is the ambassador for Citrus, Hernando, and Pasco County.
Right.
The contact information is there on this. And questions about LAP, go to Larry Taylor. Questions in general about the process, Dennis. This is all available again right from the District 7 SafetySummit.org webpage. Now that is for the 2013 funding cycle. There may be changes to this for 2014 after the Safety Summit.
Did you want to open it anybody else's mic, or I'm not sure how you want to do that, Anthony?
Yeah, if anybody is online that actually went through the online application process, I would love to hear feedback from you. If you can raise your flag or do something so that I can identify who you are. I'd like to know, because we from our end, the online application process was fantastic, and we would like to expand and move towards that. One of the primary feedback comments that we got is that because this year it was a pilot program, we had somewhat of a hybrid paper/online application form where people that were applying would download a PDF, fill things out, scan it, and upload it through the online form. What I envision moving towards is having completely online, clickable checkboxes, clickable text boxes where there is no paper involved. You're filling out the information and doing everything, all the fields would be online. That's where I would like to head, and I would love to hear if that's where you would like us to head as well.
There's a bunch of questions in there now.
There's more questions here coming in. Where is the safety summit being held? That is in the District 7 headquarters office in
The auditorium.
In the auditorium.
On March 5th, 2014.
Nina, did you want me to unmute you so that you can talk about your experience with the application process, or just know that you went through it and it was relatively easy? Michael Frederick liked it as well.
I think for all those that are on this webinar, you'll find out that going through the online process, working with the various District 7 Safety Office consultants and the District 7 Safety Office, that once you submit your documentation and your information through the online process, you're going to get a reasonably quick turnaround in response to what you've submitted. And so things can be cleared up, or clarification can be sought a lot quicker than by doing it through the paper process.
Yeah, one advantage that the online application process that we're going towards has, and the paper application, the entire thing needs to be filled out and fully completed and signed by, your boss's boss before it gets sent. It gets put in a big envelope and it goes over to the District 7 office, and they open it up and there it is, and they have everything. If there's a problem early on in the project, there's an awful lot of work that goes into filling out a completed application. You're not going to piecemeal a paper application and send it as it's being completed. The online form allows, the sections to be uploaded and issues to be resolved along the way, rather than being done right at the very end when the applications are fully done. Something that we pushed for really hard this year with the online application process was to not wait until last minute. In prior years, we would receive basically the bulk of the applications in the last 3 or 4 days prior to the deadline. And it became a lot of effort on our end to, now we have a stack of applications, like we said. I mean, in the past we've had 40, 50 applications to go through, and it's a pretty big stack of papers, where with the online forms and the way that it's set up and the feedback loop and the communicating, seeing your process along the way, by the time that the applications were completed, we knew that everything was completed and accurate, as accurate as it could be, so that when we started reviewing the applications, go out into the field, pull in the crash data, everything was much further along than it would have been otherwise. So it made the process so much better.
Now, if anybody else has any questions, please send them to us. And if you want to be unmuted to discuss any particular issue, please indicate that. So it's kind of difficult to unmute everybody and have to control everybody at one time to discuss things. So that's why we're trying to do it this way.
I put up on the screen again as a reminder, the safety funding categories presentation that will be given by Dave Skrlunas is on Wednesday, December 4th, 2 weeks away. We have a turkey holiday. So our weekly webinars will jump 1 week and move forward. And be mindful of those dates as we move forward, because of the holidays. We're not sticking to the weekly schedule. We're working around the holidays.
No more questions? Comments? Anthony, anything else?
I guess we can conclude this webinar then if we don't have any other questions. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
It was short, but I think it was to the point, and it will be from this webinar. Just realize too, this will be continued on to the safety summit that will occur in March. So
Absolutely. Yeah, some of the topics here will be covered during the safety summit, the changes, and there are upcoming presentations like the benefit cost, the is your project feasible, the safety funding categories that go into more specifics of some of the applications, of some of the processes. I
right.
pasted in the link in the chat as well there. This presentation, the recording, and the PDF of the presentation will be available. And if you have not registered for any of the upcoming presentations, go ahead and do so at the SurveyMonkey link. Registrations are still open.